Welcome to Flopography, where we revisit old pop albums that are known by many not because of their critical or commercial success, but because of their lack thereof. These albums received the designation of flop. But did we give them a fair shake? Welcome to episode 6 of season 2 of Flopography. We took a bit of a hiatus, but not as big of a hiatus as the females album that we will be reviewing today. You like that, Mike?
That was pretty clever, Steve. I'll give you that.
So it's been a few weeks since Mike and I last reviewed our last album, which was Shawn Mendes's Wonder. But Mike, since then, it's been busy with the holiday season, I'm sure. Work gearing up in Q4. What have you been up to the past few weeks, and how was your holiday?
Honestly, Steve, it's been busy. I'm kind of glad we took the break because I've barely been surviving as it is with everything going on in life and at work. And, I'm selling my condo soon. So that's a big announcement. And I'm
oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yep, it's on the market. And I am actively looking for houses. So ready for that next step there. And just keeping busy with social things as well and trying to stay afloat and stay away from Omicron. So that's what I've been up to. How about you, Steve?
That's fair. And are you looking in the Chicago area? Any specific neighborhoods you're looking for new homes?
I'm moving to Ohio. No, I'm kidding. No,
that would have been a real twist.
That's your dream. That's your dream. I know. And I am going to be looking in the Chicagoland area. Probably not Chicago. I'm open-minded, but I'm a bird boy. I'm a bird boy. So
you're a bird boy. You like your cycle bar.
Exactly. I love the burbs. So
you love the burbs. For us, it's been a busy few weeks. We've had last week, Jenny was saying she had a friend from high school, a friend from college, and a friend from Chicago all visit LA. So we were out 3 different nights.
Who's from Chicago that she visited her? I want to know that.
Oh, her friend Joanna and Corey, they visited. We had brunch in Silver Lake on Saturday. We went to actually something pretty cool is that her friend Anna, whose friend from college was in town, and her husband is a general manager of A Christmas Carol. So he got us tickets to go see that live in the theater on Broadway. And then we went to the cast after party afterward. I don't know if I'm supposed to share that, but we were investors, Mike. But yeah, it's been a very busy few weeks. And so I appreciated the time off. We've been kept busy by our new dog who we introduced last time, Henry, who has changed our life completely. I now get up at 7 a.m. every morning and take Henry to the dog park. We take him in the dog park in the afternoon. I tried to, train him to run. He jogs and likes to sniff a lot, so that's a little bit difficult. And right now he's licking my toe as we're podcasting. So This is a really professional environment, Mike.
Better than a pedicure, right?
So anyway, let's get to the album that we'll be reviewing today, which is Fergie Ferg's Double Dutchess. This is Mike's pick, and I listened to this album for the first time, although I had heard one song from the album. It was an experience. But before we get into the music, Mike, is there a reason you're wearing the black? It looks like it's almost like a velvet hoodie.
Yeah, it's velvet. I actually bought it last holiday. I'd never worn it until now, really. So no, Steve, I was like, I need something urban. And I feel like when I think of Fergie, I think of urban and hip hop. So I'm like, okay, this looks cool and sleek. There's a black kind of stripe throughout the arms here. So I think it looks pretty cool and pretty Fergie. How about you? And that fedora, right? Or bucket?
Yeah, it's actually, I bought it. Jenny and I bought it when we were in Positano in Italy, and I've worn it like once, and that was when I was in Italy. So I thought I'd break it out because I thought Fergie was into hats, but apparently she's not. After she isn't. I Googled a couple pictures and she had hats on and they were all like funky.
You know what you should have done, Steve? You should have worn pants and had a wet stain by the crotch area because Fergie pissed herself one time, right?
This
on
wasn't
stage.
during the national anthem, was it?
No, it was that's something else. But she pissed herself in a performance, and she legit had urine all over her. But that'd be gross. Never mind. Sorry, listeners, that's gross.
They know that I'm a problem, that's why everybody's scared. Whatever doesn't kill you can make you an illionaire. Yeah, so turn the headphones up, or make the windows roll up. I make the hands go up when I show up, and I blow up till I pull up. Wait, hold up.
Before we dive into the numbers, let's give a little context to Double Dutchess. So with Fergie, we know that she was a part of the Black Eyed Peas for years, but this was her second studio album as a solo artist, and it was a follow-up to The Dutchess. The album was released September 22nd, 2017. She said a braingasm would happen, and I just jot down in my journal, record a voice note on my phone during the time her son was born. And she commenced working on the record in earnest like a year after Axl was born. She divorced Josh Duhamel?
Yeah, Duhamel.
And that was, did you remember much about their relationship? It was
Yeah,
pretty highly publicized.
I think they were together for quite a bit, actually. And I think they were known as a pretty solid relationship. And if I remember correctly, when they broke up, it was kind of shocking.
The Double Dutchess is a continuation of the Dutchess, right? Her original album, both in terms of lyrical honesty and musical variety. And really, Dutchess introduced who she was as a person, individual from the Black Eyed Peas. Fergie said, "I'm just a girl in the Black Eyed Peas." Dutchess was a way to let you in a bit. On this record, I was able to go deeper, to go straight to the emotions. Toby Gad, who co-wrote Big Girls Don't Cry, which was her largest hit from her previous album, as well as Beyonce's If I Were a Boy and John Legend's All of Me, collaborated on the Double Dutchess as well. Functioning for the first time as her own executive producer, Fergie, on Double Dutchess, and released the record for the first time through her own label, which was called Dutchess Music, an imprint of BMG. And Fergie figured the album making process wouldn't take more than a year. And as we'll dive in, it took quite a bit longer. She put out a song called LA Love, which I had never heard. And so that was interesting that was a single, because I was like, I didn't hear this on the radio, but it was a top 40 single with a beat from DJ Mustard. And that was released in 2014, assuming that like her LP would follow up pretty soon. And she said, I really thought I was going to come with that song and have the album right afterwards. It just wasn't ready. I didn't realize how long things take, especially having a kid. I've never done this before, but I wasn't proud of the work yet. So with the delay, she promised a video for every song, which I didn't watch every video, but maybe you did, Mike.
I think I did, actually, because I actually downloaded, when the album came out, the other disc of it, whatever you want to call it, with all the videos on it. And to be honest, it's nothing to be excited about. They all kind of look the same in black and white. And, you know, there's some good ones, but not many.
With that delay, she released LA Love in 2014, and the album came out in 2017 in the fall.
My heart is screaming out, leave me alone. Just don't start, we'll work it out tomorrow.
So Mike, now let's get into the album by the numbers. So looking at the first week sales, Double Dutchess sold a mere 21,000 units. Compared to the Dutchess, which sold 142,000 units. She had two album singles that charted in the Hot 100. One was LA Love, which peaked at number 27 and spent 18 weeks on the chart.
LA got the people saying, Brooklyn saying, Hacienda saying, Vegas saying, Rio saying, Tokyo saying.
And one was MILF Money, which peaked at number 28 and spent 3 weeks on the chart.
All my girls on fleek, cause we
INTEPENTENT. Do you know what that means? Can't see me. BROKE. I'm PAID. Heard about me? I'm saying, you got that milk money.
Neither were big chart successes.
Yeah. I specifically remember when MILF Money came out, and I remember LA Love too, but when MILF Money came out, I think everyone was in the kitchen of the company that Jenny and I are/were at and watching the video, which probably should not have been happening at work, let's be honest. And being like, oh my God.
Not safe for work.
Yeah, this is definitely NSFW. But being like, wow, oh my God, but also like didn't really click with GP.
The album longevity. So Double Dutchess peaked at number 19 and only spent 2 weeks on the Billboard 200. And it's not certified in terms of units at all. The Dutchess spent 94 weeks. So that's 92 weeks more than Double Dutchess. Peaked at number 2 and is 5 times platinum for selling 5 million units. Now, critically, the Double Dutchess had a 53% on Metacritic. The Dutchess had a 58%. So it's not that the Dutchess was necessarily rated that highly. Positively, someone wrote, she's a shapeshifter with a fun new album. And negatively, somebody wrote, it's been roughly a decade since Fergie dominated the pop charts without the help of the Black Eyed Peas, and she wants you to know that she's still ambitious, still hungry. On Hungry, the opening track for a long-awaited sophomore effort, Double Dutchess. But like Gwen Stefani, who also broke ranks with her famous band in the mid-aughts and attempted a comeback at least 5 years too late, Fergie struggles to balance the new with the old throughout the album.
Yeah. Oh my God. Whoever wrote that review is spot the F on. Like, because I often compare Gwen to Fergie because they're both in the same situation. But also, I think the difference is with Fergie, and I know we're getting a little bit too deep into this, but the Duchess was largely produced by will.i.am of the Black Eyed Peas. And I think that she didn't veer far away from what Black Eyed Peas was known for and what they were good for.
Spend that money, bitch, like it ain't nothing, 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 nothing. All day, bitch, like it ain't nothing, 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 nothing. Roll up in the ghost, bitch, like it ain't nothing, 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 nothing.
But now that we're through the numbers, let's talk about specifically the intangibles and the analysis of the record and discussing whether it truly is a flop or not. Describe your initial reaction to the album.
Anticipation more than anything, because I mean, let's be honest. Let's say it now. Dutchess was an iconic album. It dominated the charts. They had like almost 4 or 5 number 1 singles. It was dominating the charts, and so I was excited because she had built up awareness about this for 4 years since her lead single with LA Love, and I was really excited. And are you asking upon listening to it or upon its delivery? Because those are 2 different things too.
Let's start with the delivery, because it seems like that's what you're talking about right now, whether it's on Spotify or vinyl or CD. How did you react to it the first time?
It was a very weird time in the music industry, so I don't know if it was what, but her first couple singles, nothing really excited me. LA Love, I thought was MILF Money, I thought it caught on. It was catchy, but it was a little bit too like Holla Back Girl, like, we're trying to be brash and annoying and catty and trying to get attention with that. And both, to be honest, we're tired. I thought they were tired. It was a lot like Dutchess, and we needed Fergie to move into a different direction. It's not how it was 11 years prior with that album on Dutchess. And the whole album just publishing and this process itself was a mess and a half, Steve. Like, this was, pop blogs were just like talking about, when will this album be released? This is such a mess. It leaked ahead of time. I remember downloading one of the leaks. I'm sorry, feds, but I downloaded a legal version, and like literally months ahead of when it was supposed to be released. And the rest is kind of like, ugh, from there.
When I first listened to the album, I felt like I couldn't get a real feel on the direction of the album. I don't know Fergie all that well. And like, obviously I know she's a part of the Black Eyed Peas, but I wouldn't necessarily consider the singles that she came out with with the Dutchess as necessarily full on hip hop, but I felt like she really leaned into it in this album.
Yeah.
So it mixed like pop, hip hop, R&B, rock, even like jazz, which made it kind of not feel cohesive and kind of contributed to maybe feeling a bit like a mess in general. And so, but it was quintessential Fergie. I think Fergie is almost deliberately messy at times. One of the quotes that I really liked from one of the critics was, with its bratty hip-hop boast, playground chants, winsome ballads of puppy love, and dated samples, Double Dutchess sounds as though it was made in 1997 by a 21-year-old, not 2017 by a 42-year-old.
Talk about being ageist. Like, that's just not a cool statement from my perspective, because I still think you can be bratty and fun and sassy in your 40s.
Well, and remember, this was 2017, so now it feels like a decade ago with how much progress we've made, and like, especially with like the female empowerment movement with Me Too. And I think that definitely, like, even in reading the reviews, played a bit of a role in, I think, the demise of this album, because I think that if it had that context, that there are certain things that might have been seen in a bit of a different light. But we'll get into that as we start diving more into the album. So, Mike, describe your low moment of the era.
You know, I'm going to go with the hip hop, not because of the hip hop sound, but in kind of the same vein of what you were just saying, Steve, about 2017 feels like it was a decade ago because of so much progress we have made. As I was listening to the album again for this podcast, I felt there was a lot of blackfishing, and where Fergie is using a black scent for, you know, what people call in terms of trying to speak as one may perceive as a black individual, and trying to use a hip hop tone that sounds inauthentic with an Irish woman, right? And in terms of her background. And it makes me feel a little icky about it. And to be honest, it's like, wow, did she really do this in 2017? And to me, it showed no progress in her sound and owning who she is authentically nearly 11 years after her first album.
So to me, the low moment, I picked a song, and it was Love is Pain. I believe the last song on the album. Her voice really isn't her strongest attribute, in my opinion. I felt that there are moments when she was supposed to be able to hit a note that she wasn't able to. Anyway, Mike, what should have been a single in your opinion?
Ooh, Tension, for sure. Tension's probably the strongest track that was not technically a single. It's a really good flat road for those who are spin people. And it's just groovy, and it was produced by Alesso without sounding too EDM like. It had really good lyrics. It was written by Justin Tranter, who's a really big pop juggernaut in the songwriting space, as well as Diana Gordon, who is kind of well, she was an EDM artist, but anyways, she's fantastic. But that song is fantastic, and I thought it could have been good as a single.
All this tension that we can't control got me catching feelings on the dance floor. Ooh, damn, I'm hoping that we take it home. Got me catching feelings on the dance floor.
There were parts of the album that I had fun with, and like I was like, okay, this is a kind of like, it's not a bop, but it's something that I felt was fun, and I could see why people would actually enjoy that song, but it was tough to find something that I felt like was radio friendly. So I went with You Already Know. I felt
it was a single though.
It didn't chart. So
yeah, that's true.
Here. I considered it not an official single in the US, but I thought it was a catchy chorus it did have that Jock Jam sample and a Nicki Minaj feature, which I felt like were two things that would really lend a bit of, excitement from the GP.
And that song, I would have said that one if it wasn't technically a single, but if I would have picked that, because that song, she performed it at a concert like a year or half or two before it was actually released finally. And I remember hearing the clips of it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is a bop and a half. Like, this would be a really good track for her to release. And then she did it, what, years later? By then, Nicki was not hot, I don't think, in 2017 when it was released. And, her time had kind of passed a little bit. But I will tell you, again, one of my biggest indicators whether a song's a bop or not, when I play that song in cycle class, and actually that song was in my first class ever, like, people get down to it. They just like are loving it because it's undeniably a good track, and missed opportunity by her not releasing that even as the first single at that time.
That's right, baby. You already know. You already know. Hope you're ready, steady, rockin'. Let it go, get bold. I just can't hold back and forth, cause I'm the girl with soul and controlling effects. So what the heck? Rock the discotheque, is this groove is the next. Tease on the camera, freeze while I animate.
So to you, what aged the best on the album or within the era?
For me, the sound when this was released was dated largely, and I think it still is. And it's her trying to extend to what she said as a 2.0 of the Dutchess, and it just did not work in 2017. So I don't know if anything has aged the best. Minus,
I'm curious why she was so focused on even having the same album title, like 10 years later.
11. That's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't understand that because I didn't feel like people would connect with that, except like, I mean, she doesn't have the fandom that like a lot of the big pop female stars we've featured here do. So like, it's not like, I felt like that was very inside baseball. Like, nobody's really gonna care that it's a follow-up to the Dutchess, and maybe she just wanted to extend build upon the popularity of her first album. But 10 years is a long time in the music industry, as we all know.
Time. I mean, Steve, if we were to make an episode of the biggest factors of a flop, time between releases is a huge one. And Fergie, I think you're spot on with saying she doesn't have a fandom. She's not Adele. She can't wait years at a time to release an album. Like, she is what I would call fast food pop music. People go in, it feels good, it tastes nice, but it's not healthy, it's not sustainable. And I honestly think that because of that, it was a huge misstep in this entire era.
So to me, what aged the best is actually MILF Money. And I say that because I think it's truly like an equivalent to a WAP today in some ways.
Yeah,
like it's a bit of a female empowerment track. It featured a video of like famous moms making their own like got milk. It included Kim Kardashian, Sierra, Chrissy Teigen. And if you equate it to WAP, which featured Kylie Jenner and other famous people, and it was heralded, but it's a different context, right? And a quote I found said, and when Fergie does address maturity on MILF Money, she could be mistaken for a surgically enhanced porn star trying to break into pop. And so this is the type of quotes that were around MILF Money. So it just goes to show you that the context matters. And had MILF Money been the WAP of Double Dutchess, that could have started a string of hits that changed the game for Fergie.
Yeah, this is said probably way too much in the pop landscape, but perhaps that song was ahead of its time in terms of owning female sexuality and age. And I think spot on, Steve. It could have performed extremely well in 2021.
Heard you in the mood for a little milkshake. Welcome to the Dairy Dutchess Love Factory. I could whip it up, fix you up straight away. Come on in the front door, leaving out the back door, whip it, flip it, hey.
What didn't age well?
I really do think that the fact that holistically as an album, she tried to replicate the producers and the sounds of the Dutchess. It was basically almost a carbon copy for what the Dutchess was. And Steve, you said the Dutchess, I think you had some mixed thoughts on it, but that was a really like popular album, right? Glamorous, and what else do they have? Fergalicious,
Fergalicious, London Bridge.
That was a huge album, but you can't take the same producers, Polo to Don, will.i.am, and expect to have the same magic with it, right? And I think what happened with her is she, like many artists we review, gets so stuck in that thought and art process that they end up making shit.
All of the samples kind of felt like ripoffs. Like if you listen to a lot of the music, there was like jock jams in the background for that song that I referenced earlier as my single. Yeah. The cliche lyrics in Shantae, the beat felt like kind of ubiquitous, and it seemed like something I'd heard a million times. If I could live and start this dance, I would. To your point, like a carbon copy of music that I've heard before. Probably some of what was on the Dutchess, but just other things in the cultural zeitgeist to try, hey, let's throw in that beat, or let's throw in this lyric or sample or something to kind of give this song a little bit more meat. It wasn't able to kind of stand alone. So Mike, what's your rationale for what went wrong with the album?
A repeat and rinse of her last album, Dutchess. It's just clear as day, but as well as the fact that there's a huge gap between her last album and she doesn't have the star power to do that. I honestly think that Fergie should make a reset before her next album, but that I think those two factors are what really caused that. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, though.
I think when you start an album and release your first song, in 2014, the album releases in 2017, it goes back to the issues that we had with Invincible, for example, where you take so long to produce an album that by the time it comes out, it feels very dated. It was meant to be a follow-up in the beginning, but 10 years later, it's not a true follow-up. She also was a victim of when she released the album. will.i.am was quoted saying during this time, since the beginning of the Black Eyed Peas, we've always had amazing vocalists that appeared on the mic with us. People like Macy Gray, Debbie Nova, Estro, Fergie will always work with good females. And there was this big article about how it was downplaying Fergie's importance in the band. And so it was interesting to me that it felt like everyone was kind of going against Fergie a bit. Some of the songs were ahead of its time and could have been plopped into 2021, like MILF Money, like a lot of these retro 90s jock jam samples that is now a rebirth for Gen Z of interest in the 90s. So I think there were a few things at play, but I think it was the timing, whether that means the context of when it was released into the will.i.am quote, or whether that is the 10-year hiatus, whether that's some of the styles that might have been a little bit more popularized now. I think that moment was a bad time to release it. I'm not saying I will say this was probably one of the first albums that I listened to and I was I could totally see why Mike wanted to review this. But with that, I would say that the timing was probably what went wrong. So a little bit kind of agreeing with you. All right, now it's time for our fan tweets. And the first one comes from Mr. Pop Official, who says, Fergie's Double Dutchess album was good. I stand firmly by that. Ooh. And this is someone we both follow, Mike, so we respect this guy's opinion.
I know. And, Mr. Pop knows pop. So, Steve, we have to give him credit where credit is due. He's standing firm.
100%, 27 likes too. So people were rallying around Fergie.
They were engaged in our world.
All right. The second tweet comes from Pop Crave, which says 3 years ago today, Fergie released MILF Money as the second single from her second album, Double Dutchess. The song was made to empower mothers and their sexuality, and its video featured famous moms like Sierra, Kim Kardashian, and Chrissy Teigen. It is now over 260 million views, which that's pretty solid. I mean, it's no WAP, but that's still pretty solid for YouTube views.
That video, Steve, like, did you watch it? It's made for YouTube.
Yes. All right, Mike, it's time for our 2021 review. So, Mike, flop or not? Fergie's
flop. Fergie flop. It's simple, right? Now, I will say, Steve, there were a couple good tracks on it, but it's largely a flop. And, you know, we did not mention, but I feel like we always mention this, promotion was almost non-existent on this album. So that also played a factor into it. But yeah, Fergie, you did it wrong. And Steve, I'm going to say it now. Her and the Black Eyed Peas are just meant to be. They cannot be separate. Black Eyed Peas had a little bit of success without her now, but they just got to get back together and get it done.
I agree with you. Double Dutchess is a flop. It is probably one of the biggest flops we've reviewed.
Wow.
In my opinion, in terms of a come down, commercial success, and just like the rollout and planning for this, I felt there was no way this was going to succeed when you saw this come out in 2017 after the failed attempts with the first two singles and like the 10-year hiatus, as well as like the sound on the album. And then commercially to sell 120,000 less than the previous album in its first week. Objectively, this is a flop.
Yeah, definition of it.
All right, Mike. Well, that brings us to the end of the episode. Another one in the books. The last track, my favorite time of the day. No, starting this podcast is my favorite time of the day, Mike. So if you have any thoughts on Fergie's Double Dutchess, hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Flopography Podcast. Also, submit any thoughts on albums you'd like us to review in the future.
Yeah, you can also do that through email if you're not on social at flopographypodcast@gmail.com. And if you're watching us, go to anchor.fm/flopography podcast to listen to us if that is your jam, or to share it with your friends. And if you're watching us, like, comment, and subscribe, because those things help us goose up in the algorithms. But thanks for your patience too. Oh my gosh, like, I hope we didn't lose any listeners in the process, but Steve and I just needed a nice little reset.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And now I have to go make sure my dog hasn't torn apart my house and take him outside. But we love you guys, and I can't wait to do this all over again in a week. So Mike, good to see you, and have a great time watching like Hallmark movies this weekend, or whatever people do before
I do not do that. I'm going to Jenny will love this. I'm going to Reputation's anniversary party at Scarlet on Friday.
Oh, she almost squealed.
The entire album from start to finish they're going to play. I'm excited.
Oh, you can hear in the background. Anyway, we'll have to talk a little bit about that after we wrap. So anyway, guys, thanks again for the great time. And we look forward to bringing the next episode to you guys. See ya.
Woo! Got bruises on my heart, plenty scars on my mind. Got blisters under the Band-Aid over my life. Gonna rip it open and show the world what's there. Lord knows I'm not perfect.